Have you ever wondered what really happens behind the scenes making reality TV? Richard Smead has worked on the biggest reality series on Australian television in the past 15 years. How did you get into directing reality TV?
How did I get into reality TV? I wanted to be a director ever since I was at school, and through a course of events ended up in reality television. It kind of came as an offer to me to work on a different format of show, and to be honest, it works better for my kind of personality. I like things moving fast, and I got offered an opportunity to work on Biggest Loser, one of the big reality shows that sort of started the genre here in Australia.
123.4 kilos.
There are some shows that are highly produced and highly manipulated to get a story. Big Brother is an example of that. Bachelor, maybe Married at First Sight. A reality show is meant to show real people in an environment. The problem is it's not a real environment. It's a TV set, and we're there to make entertainment. We have to poke the bear of entertainment. I mean, if you wanted to, you could watch an episode of Big Brother where in reality they'd probably just sit on the couches and do absolutely nothing. And on one of the series, on one of the days, they did sit there and do absolutely nothing. So you have to throw environment at them. You have to throw challenges at them and see how they react. A lot of those shows go under the guise of it's meant to be a social experiment. And so they push that social experiment card and say, well, what would happen if we did this to this person, or we create an environment like this? I think in the shows like Bachelor and Big Brother, we're possibly pushing that a little bit too hard. And I think the audience is smarter than that. I think they realise that there's too many manipulative tools going on. We're creating an unreal environment, so that would never happen. Plus, I think there's a lot of contestants auditioning for these roles who have another agenda. They use it as a platform to get a name. They use it as a platform to test things. It is interesting, a process which I discovered when I worked on Biggest Loser was there was a period of time in the first few weeks where contestants would go through their own mental, if you like, breakdown of what they were about to do. You know, in television, we do ask them to do things. Survivor, not the case. But on other shows, we do ask them to do things multiple times. Walk up, stand like this, go over here, do that, and now here's the event. You do the event and off we go. Most of the time, they're pretty excited about it in the first few days or week. Maybe you might be still excited after the second week. But then they become very tired of it. They don't like being told what to do. They tend to fight it and start going, well, this is just TV. This is just all make-believe. And generally I've found, if I should have done a study over the years, but generally I've found that the contestants that have fought the process of television are usually the ones that end up either getting eliminated or leave the show or decide this is not for them and somehow exit. The ones that realise what it is, it's television, and think, well, I'm just going to take everything I can from this and make the most of this experience, are the ones that go the furthest, if not become the eventual winner. Because everyone on the other side of the camera, being the directors, the producers, the cameramen, we've done this. We know what we're doing. And after this one, we're going to move on to something else. For them, it's just this new world experience. So how much is real? There's a few shows that still have that authenticity of real, Survivor being one of them. I think MasterChef too, I have a soft spot for, because MasterChef is a show to me that has integrity and authenticity. When I was on the show, it was Matt, Gary and George, and when they said the food didn't taste right, we believed them. There was a scene we had in Series 3 where one of the dishes looked amazing, one of the dishes didn't look amazing. And it came down to the two of them to go through to the finals. And the judges said, the one that doesn't look good tastes the best. And for about half an hour, we sat in a room and debated about whether or not we could tell the story through television, which is a visual medium, how the dish that doesn't look good on television is the best dish. I smiled at the end of that experience because I was thinking that just shows me that these guys care about what they're doing. we don't care about how you guys do TV. We care about food. That's our domain. And a huge amount of respect to them. They did it. And it was true. The dish did taste amazing, even though the other one looked incredible. As a reality show director, you've always got to expect the unexpected. You're always facing issues. It could be the rain suddenly comes in. How do you do a cooking challenge in MasterChef outside when it suddenly starts to rain? How do you do a Survivor challenge in the water when the tide has gone out? It's about trying to mitigate a lot of those things before they happen, and or think about those things before they happen. But inevitably every day you're dealing with a problem. I had an incident on MasterChef, which was, it was my first run at MasterChef. It was series 3. It was the opening sequence, and it involved a helicopter lifting a giant mystery box onto Cockatoo Island in front of 100 waiting contestants, including George, Matt and Gary. And just as I went to cue the helicopter, with everybody standing around, I get a radio from the helicopter saying, "We can't lift the box, it's too heavy." And then there's a moment flashed in my head, I'm thinking, who do I blame for this? And then you realise there's nothing you can do but hold everything, quickly rethink about what we're going to do next. We ended up having to put everybody on hold for about an hour. The art department ran to the other side of the island and emptied the mystery box of all its contents, so the helicopter could lift a box, but without ingredients in it. Once we worked out that, it was fine. But there was a moment there I thought, this is either the beginning and the end of my career.
How do you manage the stress of something like that?
That's a very good question. How do I manage the stress? I don't know. I think I thrive in those pressure environments. In fact, when you are working with experts, you know that you'll come up with a plan to get through whatever adversity's been thrown at you.
What has been your favourite show to work on?
My favourite show has been Survivor. It was always the show I wanted to work on. It was the original reality show. So to have that at the top of my bucket list, I managed to fulfill that bucket list a couple of years ago. However, across the period of time professionally, Lego Masters has become a favourite. And then, of course, MasterChef, which cemented my passion for the genre.
What is it about Survivor that appeals to you so much?
It is the ultimate reality show in the way that it's produced. It's one of those shows that's very authentic. There is a separation between crew and cast, so it's really allowing them to experience what it is to try and be, the sole survivor. Everything is highly respected from every area. And then there's the actual what we're doing on the show. Some of the things we do are ridiculous. It's one of those shows that's very authentic. When you see Jonathan LaPaglia out there, he's really running the show from that position. We don't have a lot to do with him. He runs it. I love that aspect where the faces you see and the people are out there are actually doing that task. I've been on plenty of shows where we're in the ear of a talent and telling them what to do. But he loves it, and he's a very smart guy and is so invested in the show. So you've got all these different areas where people are just masters of what they do.
Can you walk me through a day of planning and filming an episode of Survivor?
I worked on Survivor Series 6. It was Brains versus Brawn. George and Hayley were very prominent in our series.
Winner of Australian Survivor, Brains versus Brawn, Hayley.
The great thing about Survivor is when the contestants arrive, the show is on. The show doesn't stop until that last tribal council. So that a lot of planning has to go in before they even arrive, and location scouting. The day before, we've rehearsed the challenge. In other words, we'll go out and we will get people, generally the art department and all the challenge team will show us what the challenge is going to do. And that night I'll go home and I'll put a camera plan together. And then the day starts at camp, so we send a selection of crew to camp for the wake-ups. The camp you see them building is the camp that they sleep in. And if they haven't got fire, they haven't got fire. But essentially they get moved to the challenge location. On a challenge where there's elimination, we go back to the camp where they're headed off to tribal, and it's called Scramble. And basically it is. It's filming anything and everything that happens. There's a lot of, conversations. And in that process, you've got people working behind the scenes to try and navigate a storyline so that when we get to tribal council, we've got something to talk about and JLP's got some questions to ask.
So someone is watching and listening in to every conversation?
Yeah. I mean, the unsung heroes in a lot of these shows is the story team, the story producers. They are the ones collecting what might seem insignificant storylines, then turn into be something quite significant. In terms of a reality television, everything does happen for real. The day can start at 6 and maybe finish at midnight. You work very hard. You work 7 days a week, most people. The executive producers, they're on 24/7. And as a director, you work pretty much 6 to 7 days.
Wow, sounds like really hard work. Well, here are a couple of questions that come from Google. They come up when I type the word Survivor into the Google search engine. Are contestants given condoms on Survivor?
Oh, gosh. Are contestants given condoms on Survivor? I have never witnessed it. However, there have been some strange requests. I can't tell you what they are. So it wouldn't surprise me.
Another question frequently typed into Google, do they have toilets?
Yes, they do. They are known not to use toilets, but there is always an access to a toilet. It's one of the most frequent asked questions is, do they have a toilet? We in Australia, yes, provided them with one toilet per tribe.
You directed one of the most memorable and dramatic seasons of The Bachelor back in 2014 when Blake Garvey was The Bachelor. He made headlines for his controversial behaviour. What was that season like from an insider's perspective?
I think that series of Bachelor was a classic case of a miscast. There was some great hope for what this could be. The series was on a high. Let's find an attractive guy and just throw him into environments.
Will you marry me?
I think on the high of where Bachelor was at the time, it was really just trying to be something bigger and better every season. And I think that loss of authenticity and integrity that they keep talking about was well and truly out the window. We were just trying to do some crazy, wild things and put a bunch of people together and see what happens. And that's, I think, what happened. We put a whole bunch of innocent, wonderful women together with a guy who probably had no idea what television was going to do to him. That's a classic example of watching things go wrong. Sadly, I think the future of reality is possibly going to be a version of that, but could be a lot worse of things going wrong. Poor Blake, he's a lovely guy. I think he was just a little bit too shell-shocked when the camera started rolling. And the girls involved in the series, yeah, they were lovely, but they were hyped up into this frenzy of what this was going to be. And I don't know if the show's ever recovered from that series. The future of reality television is two pathways. One is we're going to see something really bad happen and it's going to have to change dramatically. And that will be the worst case scenario.
When you say bad, as in something dangerous to somebody's health?
I think something dangerous to someone's health, physically, mentally. There are already cases going on around the world where contestants are trying to fight production companies and formats for their mental state post-show.
I imagine they're signing contracts before going in.
Correct. And there's also binding contracts that say you can't talk about it. So these things are happening, we wouldn't even know. So sadly, I do think there'll be only a matter of time until something happens and it'll have to change the face of reality shows. Whether that means we're going to have to change what we make, I'm not sure. The other pathway that I'd like to see happen is I'd like to see newer ideas. Currently, we make shows because they rate well. And so we duplicate a format and change a few names and build something else into it because we know that's going to work. We know that's going to rate, and that's what pays the bills. I think our audience is smarter than that. I think generally people want something new. They just don't know exactly what they want. So it's going to take a group of people or a network or somebody to come up with a new idea, and that will set the tone of the future. I think the whole point of reality show is its observation of people in an environment. How many times can you change that environment? I don't know. But right now, I think the reality show area is hit a bit of a plateau, and it'll just take a bit of time for us to start reinventing that wheel.